So in this demonstration, I'm going to launch Visual Studio 2010. And I'm going to go ahead and create a C# Windows application. And I'll call it my reports application. So this form here, let's have a look. There we go. I'll give it a label of reports. Let's make it a more decent size, so something like 900 by 600. And in the center of the screen. So my intention is to have a split screen here. On the left-hand side, I want a list box that shows all of the reports in my sales reports folder. Upon the selection of an item within that list, I want the report viewer control in the next demonstration to go and view that report. So from the toolbox, I introduce the split container. So I now have two panels, panel 1, panel 2. And then into panel 1, I'm going to place the list box. And then I come to the doc property and I say fill the available space. Now to fill it, I'm going to populate it with all of the reports in the sales reports folder. So what I need to do is come to the references of the project and add a service reference. Click on advanced, add web reference, and then I type in the URL to my report server. And to the endpoint, report service 2010 ASMX. That's the ASP.NET web service. Go find it. And it found the service, and what it's really requesting is the WSDL document, Web Services Description Language, WSDL. And in that document, in XML form, it will find the entire web service definition, including the types, the methods, the protocols used to communicate with them. And what Visual Studio is able to do is take that document, and when we add the reference, it will build a series of proxy classes in my project that will allow me as a developer to communicate with that web service as if it were a local component. So as a developer, I'm not concerned with how to transport and marshal requests to and from the web service. It's all done through the proxy class itself. So what we'll discover is that this WSDL document consists of dozens and dozens of methods. Everything about managing the content, whether it's uploading reports, managing properties, listing children, creating subscriptions, is all here exposed as a method. And there we go. So a quick glance at some of the methods. Deleting items. What we're interested in is list children, where we pass in a string that is the path to the folder, and whether we want recursively reports beneath that, yes or no, and it returns an array of catalog items. So let me add this as the report service. We add the reference, and now those proxy classes have been created. And now I can start to develop against it. So I double-click the window title here, and that takes me to the code behind and to the load event, which is the method that will execute when the form is loading. So before I start writing my code, I want to bring into scope all of the resources that that proxy class has created. And then down here I go ahead and say, well, for the type that is this proxy class, I create an instance of it. That's my web service. The next thing I do is I specify the credentials. So we're going to communicate using this. The credential cache is basically the credentials of the current identity running the application. And so the default credentials returns those, and that's what will be used to communicate with the web service. Now the other thing you really should be doing there is specifying the URL. I'm going to comment that out. You should not hard code the URL to your report server. That should come from some configuration file. It should not be compiled into the application. Then I go ahead and create an array of catalog items. And I assign to it list children, the result of the list children method. So whatever's in the sales reports folder, and nothing hierarchically beneath it, all of those items are now stored in that array. And then we use the for each construct. For each, and I'll do a test here. So when we take a look at the properties of my catalog item, everything about it, when it was modified, the name of it, the path of it, its size, what I'm interested in here is the type. If it's a report, I'm not interested in data sources or other folders. If it's a report and it's not hidden. So things like sub-reports and drill-through reports, sometimes you don't want users going direct to them, so you can hide them. It's not a permission, it's simply saying they still need permission to get to it, but we don't want it available for direct browsing. So long as it's a report and it's not hidden, then I go to my list box and its items collection, and then I add the name property of the report. And that's it. When I run, now that load event will come in, communicate with the web servers, and there we go. There's all of the reports that are stored in that report folder. Now what's particularly cool about this is that if JPack or another employee comes in, it's using their identity. If J isn't allowed to see that report, it simply won't be here. And so you don't need to hard code what reports are available anymore. That's part one. We'll come back and extend that design with the report viewer control.